Okay, we're recording. So here we go. So yeah, this is nature journaling, and I'm Kelly and Campbell. I'm here because I love to help others connect with nature through creativity and simple observation. This is a picture of me from my last solo stay out at Royal Hondo Preserve. I was doing watercolor studies and also just collecting visual information for a sign I'm working on for the Royal Hondo Preserve. I'll show you some more slides of that in a minute. But to start off, I wanted to read this quote. I think it's really powerful and applicable in today's world. In this 20th century, to stop rushing around, to sit quietly on the grass, to switch off the world and come back to the earth, to allow the eye to see a willow, a bush, a cloud, a leaf. I have learned that what I have not drawn, I have never really seen. And so this is by Frederick Frank. He's the artist of the Zen of Seeing. And I think it's so true, especially in the world of science. Often it seems like we're just trying to name things, identify them, associate them in an objective way. And sometimes we don't really stop to relate to things in nature or around us. And I really think by drawing things, it forces you to take a closer look and connect more deeply with the natural world. So that's one of the reasons I feel like this is a really powerful practice. That and just giving you an opportunity to slow down in our busy life. It really is a mindfulness practice. And I think anything of that nature in today's world is a huge gift. So yeah, I see nature journaling as an intersection between science and art, and the spirituality and nature connection is in the middle of that. There's lots of reasons to keep a nature journal. Like I mentioned before, slowing down, also record keeping. I know a lot of researchers in the rainforest and other natural spaces around the world use journals to take record while they're doing research or field observations. It's also a place to record questions, helps with nature connection. It helps you develop a sense of place, which I think is such an important thing. Again, especially in today's world, we tend to spend a lot of time on technology or also interacting with things like chain stores or things you find everywhere. And to really connect with your place and have an intimate relationship with the species that are right outside your yard, it just creates a more rich existence while we're here on the planet. And for me, it really is a meditative practice. I've used nature journaling a lot for healing. I think it's really powerful for trauma work or just healing in general, to go and be in nature and take a break and connect. It can also be a community building tool. I know people that get together and hold nature journaling groups, and they will meet regularly and do that work together. So that can be a powerful way of building community. These are just a few examples of different styles of nature journaling. So this is kind of on that end of spirituality and inspiration. The world is full of magic things patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper. So this is one person's approach. The cool thing about nature journaling is that it can be so personal depending on what you want to get out of it. It can be all the way on the spectrum of super artistic and spiritual, like this example, into more record keeping and species ID or a travel journal. This is Amy Tan's work. She's a really remarkable nature journalist, and I put one of her quotes down here. I'll read it for you. I think of nature drawing as a spiritual connection to nature, and nature journaling is a written testament to the miracles of the wild. So that's a quote from her book, How to Teach Nature Journaling. But you can see here, there's some common components of all of these approaches. There's words, there's drawings, and there's numbers. And a nature journal entry should also have the date and the location. Sometimes they include the time of day and the temperature as well. And that is called metadata. And the reason to include that kind of data is that it makes it a historical account. You know when you did it, you know where you were. I'll show you in a few minutes some slides from a trip to Ecuador. And I did that back in 2012, and I didn't record that kind of data. And I definitely I find myself wishing that I would have added that to my entries. So it's just something simple to remember to include on your entries. And we'll get more into that later. And I put this slide on here because I think it's important to recognize that you don't have to be an amazing artist to be an effective nature journaler. This is an entry from one of the books that I will give you guys the name of at the end of the show that I used to put this presentation together. But this person is out studying signs of beaver and the damage on the trees. And they're using it to do their research and record data. And there's still pictures, there's still words, there's symbols. It has all of those elements, and it's serving this person a purpose. It's very functional. And this person isn't an amazing artist, and that isn't really the point for this person. Nature journaling is not about making a pretty picture. It's about the act of slowing down, being present, and using your senses to record observations. And I think when you make it that open-ended, it really is approachable for everyone at every skill level that you're at. And it's also an ancient practice. It's been used for thousands of years. Life was nature. There was really no separation between us and the natural world when you go just not too far back. And record keeping was a form of nature journaling. So hunter and gatherer societies used drawings to share information about hunts. Farmers recorded logs on their crops. Sea captains used journals to record landmarks or weather patterns, cloud shapes. Botanists and researchers have used nature journals for hundreds of years to do their science. And then these are actually images from the Lewis and Clark expedition. So they were also really talented nature journalists. How's everybody doing?
Awesome.
Too fast, too slow?
No, it's great.
Very it's funny because I can't see you guys at all, so I'm just talking at my computer screen.
Wonderful.
Much of what I can only see my presentation too. So this is a cool quote by John Mears Law. I'll give you his information if you want to look up his work a little bit later on, but he's an amazing nature journalist. He's really a pioneer in the field and has some great resources if you want to kind of use this presentation as a jumping off point and check out his work. But what he says is much of what we know about the natural world today comes directly from journal entries of naturalists and scientists. When you record information in your journal, you are adding to the body of knowledge and building your understanding of the natural world. So this is how I use nature journaling. For me, it is part of my career. It's part of my life's work, but it's also has been a way for me to log trips that I've taken around the world. And like I mentioned before, it's also a spiritual practice for me. This is some of my work. This is when I was 20 years old. I was studying in Costa Rica, and I was using an accordion type journal, and I was using my journal to record my journey through Costa Rica. I was there for 4 months studying the rainforest. We went out to the Islas de Tortugas, which is the top left image. And that shows the island shapes up there. We saw turtles lay eggs in the sand, and then the next day a nest hatched, and a different nest hatched, and the little tiny turtles scurried their way to the ocean, getting pummeled by waves and trying again. And so every time I take a trip, I try to make a journal about that trip, especially if it's a longer trip. And it's just such a precious and it's just a great way to recall your trip. And some memories might be lost if they weren't recorded. And so I found that to be a really cool way to document my travels around the world. This is some leaf studies I did in Ecuador, and this was in 2012 at Los Cedros, which is a biological preserve in northwest Ecuador. And I just kind of made it my job to draw as many leaves as I could. And it was just kind of one of those things that I do. But these definitely worked, an important step. But I'm a Ecuador. A different style of journaling. I'm also in Los Cedros in Ecuador, and I was hiking around with a orchid specialist in the mountains of this cloud forest. And every time he would stop and share a species name or an interesting fact about the orchids that we were passing, I would make a drawing, and the lines kind of connect the order in which we saw them. And it's just kind of, it's like a visual representation of my botanizing walk with this orchid specialist. So again, just kind of a fun memory. And these are just quick drawings, but just showing you there's just lots of ways to approach this. This is a journal entry from a recent solo backpacking trip I did in Willits, which is in the Sespe. I found this tiny mud nest, and I still don't know who made it, but the next time I get one of my entomologist friends to take a look at my drawing, I will have this to reference and tell them about it. You can see I kind of described that the inside of the nest is shiny, like protein or silk on the inside. And I tried, and the drawing in the lower right is actual size of the nest. So it was about 3/4 of an inch tall. And a lot of times I don't have time to add color in the field. So I will write on my drawing what color things are and then add the color later on. So I did this drawing, and then it was time for me to go make myself dinner before the sun went down. But while I was making dinner and things were cooking, I was able to get my watercolors out and finish it up because I had written the colors on there. So you can see the flower says, you guys still with me? There was some kind of weird, I got a call and it messed things up. Okay, are we back to the slideshow now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I said the flower was orange and yellow, and the petals on the branch, or the leaves on that branch, are red and pink, have pink tips. So that information is cool to record sometimes when you're making journal entries in case you don't have color or time to add color at the moment. So this is more how I use nature journaling in my professional life. I am a graphic designer and illustrator, and I work with lots of environmental organizations in Santa Barbara County and also Ventura County. And this is a concept sketch I created for the Land Trust for the Arroyo Hondo Preserve. I'm working on an illustration about stream ecology. And part of that process was I spent 4 days out at Arroyo Hondo Preserve and did color studies, and also did some botanical illustrations of the plants that were to be included in the sign. And it's really handy to be able to draw from live specimens. So it's really an important part of the work to be out there and looking at live things and handling them and turning them over. When I went to go make, as I'm making the mural, I'm still working on it now actually, but as I'm adding these species to the mural, I'm definitely referencing my journal. There's things on there, like it says the youngest leaf is yellow green and the older leaves are darker green. So if I want to create an accurate painting, then I need to make sure I make that little younger leaf yellow green. I wrote in there that the bark is espresso or dark brown with bands, and I can see kind of how the leaves come out of the branches. And then I wrote in there that the leaves come out in clusters of 2 or 3. And these are just the kinds of things that you can't really tell from a photo. So nature journaling is also just a really great way to record visual information if you need to make another piece later. There's a subtle zigzag of the branch. This is the mural I'm working on right now. I took this picture today. This is where I'm at. I'm rounding the finish line, which I'm excited about. I've been working on this project for about a year. I do also work from photos. You can see there's a stack of photos in the upper left corner. So yeah, a mixture, but the journal entries are really important. They're really important aspects of my process. So what we're going to cover today, let me just see how I'm doing on time. We got like 32 minutes left. How does that happen? Supplies, what you're going to need to get started. Elements, what are the key elements of a nature journal entry? And then also some techniques to help you get started. So I'm going to talk for 12 more minutes, and then we're going to do an activity, and then we're going to wrap it up. So I think if we follow that timeline, we should finish on time. So one of the most important things is letting go of fear, especially if you have a complex around your artistic ability or your ability to draw. I grew up thinking I was not an artist. My best friend was an amazing artist. And I think oftentimes, like siblings, you sort of divide and conquer. And I was the science and math person, and she was the artist. And if we collaborate on projects, I would ask her to do the artwork, and I would do the writing. So I really didn't discover until later on that I had an affinity for art. And I'm so glad I did. Obviously, it's been a big part of my life. So just some tips for having a growth mindset. If you catch yourself saying, I can't draw, just add the word yet. And this really applies to everything in life. The point is not to get it all right away. The point is to grow step by step. And just think, like, what can you try next? Learning new things is challenging. And if you feel challenged, it means your brain is growing. And regardless of what your entry looks like, if you met any of the whys, then you were successful. So the whys are connecting with nature, meditating, taking observations, slowing down, all of those things. Supplies, and I'm going to be giving Jen a special part of this presentation that has all like references, like this list, for instance. So if you guys don't need to write all this down right now, but this is just sort of like a jumping off point for what to bring when you go to nature journal. So you can have a journal or you can use loose paper. I really prefer having a journal because I feel like it keeps things kind of as a series or a story. The pencil, I recommend H or 2H. And pencils are on a spectrum from 2H or 6H to 6B. And B is for bold. I recommend using 2H or H for initial sketches because they're pretty light and it's easy to erase your mistakes. Oh, and you can add an eraser to this list. I'll add that before I send this out. Water fast pens. So those are pens that don't bleed if you add watercolor later or if they get wet from rain. Or you can use, and then watercolors. There's travel watercolor palettes. I use the Royal Tellens. This has a link to the exact palette. You guys can check that out later. And colored pencils are great if you're still kind of working on your watercolor. You can use colored pencils. Sometimes that's an easier place to start. I recommend keeping everything in a designated backpack so you kind of are ready to go. And if you can't do that, I can't do that because I use a lot of my supplies in my studio that I take into the field. I keep a little checklist in the back of my journal just to make sure I have everything because it's a bummer if you get out in the field and you don't have your pencil. And then just a quick list of self-care stuff. Chair, hat, bug repellent, snacks, water. The elements of a nature journal entry, we kind of went through this before, but words, so you can title your entry or give it a subtitle and be sure to include the date, location, the weather, the time of day. You can include questions and observations. This is a place to record what you see, but also record what you don't see or record what you don't know or what you want to learn later. You can include pictures, so icons and symbols. Your drawing is obviously a picture or a cross-section of something or something from a different view. Numbers, so the date and time of your entry. You can count things or measure them. It's really nice to have measurements because then you remember the scale. of the thing that you were drawing. I noticed, I wonder, it reminds me of, this is kind of a common mantra in the nature journaling world. So I notice is what you see or hear, or what you're observing through your senses. What I wonder would be if it brings up a question for you. Maybe you are drawing a moth, but you're wondering what species it is. And then it reminds me of, that's about establishing connections or relationships between things. This moth reminds me of one that I saw in Kansas when I was 10. So you're just drawing relationships between what you know and what you don't know. This is an entry by a 13-year-old, and she's got all of the things that we talked about. She's got the date, she has the locations, she's got her title, the picture plants. She's asking questions. Why do they grow in big groups? That's what she's wondering. Why is this leaf? What's this leaf for? She's making observations on that there's small leaves and there's a long stem. She's got measurements there. She's got it all going on. This is a pitcher plant. These are carnivorous plants that live in Southern Oregon in fens. They're really remarkable. Another nature journal entry here. I think this one's super cool because she's also recording sounds. So you can see on the left side, caw, caw, caw. Deep, 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 deep. She's recording her bird calls that she's hearing. She's also asking questions. How old are these trees? Perhaps I can count the ring of a fallen tree. So she's kind of trying to brainstorm on solving her inquiry. She's labeling things, and she's got all her metadata like we talked about. This is Fiona Gillogly. I probably am not saying her last name right. She drew this when she was 14. I think she's 18 now. But she's got this super cool style of making an observation and then just jumping into all these questions. So she's the yellow tomato in the middle. She's saying, oh, there's no scars. Why? And then down in the green tomato in the lower left, she's saying it doesn't turn red. Why? Is it to keep animals from eating it? So she just has this whole series of inquiry. And I think it's really fascinating to just kind of watch her train of thought, and that she's recorded this on paper. But if you're interested in her work, she's really remarkable. She has a website and she's got hundreds of entries like this. It's pretty cool to check out. This is another entry I did in Willits where I found a moth or a butterfly. I wasn't sure, it just flew by really fast, and I tried my best to just focus on it while it was there. And as you can see, I have the red on the top wings, and then other places I have the red on the bottom wings because I couldn't remember. It's either on the top or the bottom. And it says, the land is dry, it's a low rain year, not many wildflowers. I saw one lupin, purple, very little green / new annuals. It looks like the end of summer. And this entry was in March. So this kind of documents that we had a drought year. So in that way, it's a kind of a scientific record of what this year has been like for us. It says, I couldn't figure out the artist here. I found this online, but I thought it was really cool. It looks like they use a stencil for some of their lettering. But they're asking lots of questions. And they're kind of walking you through the process of identifying this bird that's in the middle right. Which bird is this? It's a mystery. Oh, it's solved. It's a common yellowthroat. Okay, look at that. We got through. We got through that. So was that too fast, too slow? How was that for everybody? Maybe I'll check back and you can look at my face for a minute. Okay, everybody see me again?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of, half of me.
You did great. The drawings are so cool that I could look at them all longer. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be giving the presentation to Jen so you guys can look at it again. I just want to make
it's
sure
really cool. It's so
time for
interesting.
you guys to do some drawing.
And I just want to
Sorry.
share next week is the Wild Wonder, the John Muir Law's Wild Wonder Conference online. So Monday and Tuesday, there's a how to teach nature journaling that I'm going to do. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the Wild Wonder nature journaling conference. So I did it for the first time during COVID and learned so much, like overwhelmingly. So it's nice to see what you captured there as kind of a good summary of everything, that to give you the perspective of why you do this and how you do it. So great, thank you.
Yeah, I hope it's helpful. So we're going to grab our leaves and our pencils. And if you have a journal, great, or you can just use a piece of paper. If you have a pencil, great. Sometimes it's nice to fix your mistakes. We're gonna start off by working on a blind contour drawing. Has anyone ever done one of those before? And then we're gonna move into a modified contour, and then we're gonna work on a more finished drawing. So it's about 10 minutes of drawing. I'm gonna hop back into my presentation real quick, and then I'm actually going to do a demonstration for you guys. Let's see, so let's start the screen share again. Okay, hopefully that worked. So yeah, grab a leaf, any leaf. Like I said, we're gonna work on a blind contour, and then we're gonna work on a second drawing. It's a modified contour. And then we're going to create a diagrammatic drawing. So I'm going to do a little demonstration. I've never done this. Jen and I practiced a little bit the other day. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully the computer keeps up. So first thing, we're going to work on the blind. Oops, watch. The stylus is being funny. The blind contour. So in order to do a blind contour, and you guys can work while I'm talking, or you can watch me and then do it. It's totally up to you. But these turn out so funny looking, so don't make fun of my drawing. I'm just gonna look at the leaf. I'm not even gonna look at my paper, and I'm gonna draw what I see. And what this does is it helps your eye start working and really looking at what you see. I think often when we're drawing, especially if you're a beginner artist, you will draw what you think you see or what you think it should look like, and not what is actually there. So this is a cool exercise. It just kind of wakes up your muscles that connect to your hand with your eye. So why don't you guys give that a shot? Don't really focus on what it looks like. Just move through the exercise. It's kind of like, I don't know if anyone sings, but it's kind of like warming up your voice. So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes right now to do that. Did that work? Did you guys all see me drawing?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yeah? Okay, cool, cool. All right, so that was 2 minutes. Does anybody need more time, or was everyone able to kind of experiment with that?
Yeah, it's grand.
Okay, great. All right, I'm gonna turn this layer off. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is a modified contour drawing. So my stylus is acting up. So these little splotches are the result of that. I'll just turn that into the O. Modified contour. I just finished illustrating a coloring book for the Blueberry Farm in Buellton, and I've been using my stylus kind of nonstop for a month. So I think it's a little worn out. Okay, so the modified contour drawing would be, you are not going to lift your pencil off the paper, but you can look at both the paper and your specimen while you're drawing. So noticing that this has kind of toothed leaves, just try to ignore those blobs that are showing up. I'm gonna have to get in touch with Apple support after our meeting today. I'm just kind of trying to get the curves of the leaf and also that toothed edge, because I can't come back later. Everything I'm drawing, I can't lift my pencil up, so I got to do it in one shot. And I want to kind of get that venation going down the middle. Sorry for all these little spots. I don't know what's going on. But I think you guys are at least able to understand the general idea here. We've got some more little toothed edges here. This one. Venation down the middle. So I'm really trying to look at this leaf and get to know it and kind of let my eye move down it as my hand moves to the different parts. Oops, and then the stylus also likes to make geometric shapes. It's being funny today. So that is the modified contour. I didn't pick up my pen, but I was looking at both the paper and the specimen. So go ahead and give that a shot. I'll give you 2 minutes to work on that. Found a spare tip to my stylus, so I'm gonna try to plop that on there right now and see if it fixes our problem. Hopefully it does. All right, so that was 2 minutes. Did everybody get to try that out?
Yep.
Okay. All right, the next drawing is a 5-minute drawing. This is going to be a diagrammatic drawing. It's still doing it. So this is kind of fun. We are going to create kind of a more, I'm going to actually start this one off in pencil just so I can pretend that I'm you guys with a pencil. So you get to look at the specimen, you can look at your paper, and you can lift your pen up if you need to. You can erase if you made mistakes. And so the goal here is to render your leaf as well as you can, representing what you see on the paper. And then when you're finished with the drawing, if you brought a pen, we could go back through and ink it in. If we don't have time, you guys could work on that after the class. And then we can also add some of the labeling that we talked about. So to start off, I'm just gonna say where I am, which is Kelly's studio. And the date today, which is June 16th, 2021. It is the afternoon. A lot of times when you're out in nature, hopefully you're not totally in touch with what time it is, but it's good to put the approximate time of day. And then also you can put the weather. I'm just going to say that it is hot. That is what it is. It's different ways of stylizing your metadata. I like to just kind of put it in a little box. And then I'm going to start working on my leaf. And you guys can do the same thing. Maybe that's in the best interest of time, that you can kind of start working on sketching out your leaf, what you see. And I think you'll find that those two exercises are kind of helping you now be able to see your specimen a little more accurately. It's kind of good to first put the broad shapes kind of down. And since you're working in pencil, you can go back and refine those. So I like to kind of just get things sort of where they are on the page. And it's okay if, as you can see, like I'm making a lot of lines, and it's okay to make a bunch of lines at first. You can always go back and erase. And I think it kind of helps me orient a little bit too. Even if the line is in the wrong place, it kind of helps me see what I'm doing, and I can realize where the line should be. So I think that misplaced lines are actually your friend when it comes to drawing. So I'm drawing a rose. I'm going to title my drawing Rose Leaf. Probably should have done that in the beginning. And put the venation in. I'm really into noticing venation and the different types of venation that there are in plants, and kind of taking notice of what the primary venation looks like, which is this midrib down the middle, and then also the secondary venation, which are the veins that are coming off the main rib. And different plant families have different types of venation. So sometimes if you don't know the species name, you can at least figure out the family that the plant is in by noticing what the venation pattern is. I can even kind of like create a circle right here and zoom in on a section. So I'm going to erase my contents that are in here, and then so this will be a place where I'm just looking a little bit closer at the leaf. And I'm noticing that it has a toothed edge. So I'm going to add that. And if you didn't know what this leaf was, all of this information, if you didn't know the species, it would be handy when you got back to a field guide or a botanist friend later. Show them your drawing, and it would help you remember what you encountered out in the field. It's also just a really nice meditative practice. Hopefully you guys are experiencing that feeling of kind of dropping in and being present as you're working on your drawing. And then I think I'm going to kind of leave it at that for now. And then we'll get into labeling when you guys have kind of caught up. So I'm going to give you, hopefully you guys have already started drawing. I'll give you 3 more minutes. All right, so let's see. Is everybody kind of at a good stopping point with your drawing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We move on to the next part. All right, I'm gonna jump back to my presentation really quick because I want to show you guys the parts of the leaf. So if you want to look at this and label any of yours, I'll do that real quick on mine and then I'll put this back up. So let's see. Talked about the midrib and secondary venation. And this is the petiole. And we noticed that there was a toothed margin. And I'm also gonna call this a compound leaf. I'm pretty sure it is. Sometimes when leaves are like this, they're actually 3 separate leaves, but I think rose is all 1 leaf. I'd probably have to ask a botanist, but I'm just gonna make that assumption until I get proven wrong. So yeah, let me put this back up and you guys can work on labeling your leaf. So I'll give you 1 minute to do that.
You warned us, Kelly, and I ended up picking a really difficult leaf.
Well, you can take all of this knowledge and keep working on it after the presentation and for the rest of your life.
Can
So
you
there's-
show the diagram? We're just seeing your desktop.
Oh, really? You should be seeing a diagram of a leaf. You're not?
No.
Now
Oh,
we are.
there it is.
Now we are.
Okay, great. Okay, and I'll skip over to this one too. It has some venation. Maybe if you can, bonus points if you can figure out your venation pattern on your leaf. So I'm gonna say the rose is a pinnate.
What would you say about mint right off the top of your head?
I would have to, I think it's also a pinnate. I would have to have it in front of me, but I think it is. Mint's got a lot of that opposite going on. But it's kind of cool because parallel venation is always a monocot, so it's always a palm or a grass. So once you kind of get to know these things, you start seeing these patterns and it just kind of changes the way you look at plants. All right, so let's hop back to the drawing real quick. Are you guys seeing my drawing again?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna show you real quick and you guys can work on this afterwards, but the next step for me would be inking it. So I would go back in and choose my best lines and ink those in. Actually, I'm gonna give myself, since I am using technology, I'm gonna use it. So I'll just do a little bit of this because we are running out of time. But then you can kind of go back through and choose your best lines, ink them in. And since your pen is erasable, or sorry, your pencil is erasable and your pen is not, then you can go back through after you do your pen work and you can erase your pencil. And as you can see, it creates a much cleaner illustration. And if you have a water fast pen, then you go through and color too. Let's see, so we wanted to add a little green in there. Go back through and do that. So, ooh. So you guys can play with that kind of stuff on your own time. Let's go back and finish off the presentation. I really wish that I had time to see all of your drawings. Maybe at the end, if anyone can stick around and they want to show what they made, I'd love to check it out. I don't have to leave right at 1:30, but I want to finish my presentation for those that do. So this is an additional exercise called a soundscape. We're going to work on that out at Arroyo Hondo, our second meeting in July. And if you want to have some homework, you can do the same exercise we did with the leaf and do it with a flower. And if you want extra credit, you can draw the same flower as it opens for several days. And if you're drawing a flower that's part of a bush, it's helpful sometimes to use a little twisty tie or something to identify your flower so you don't forget which one you're drawing. But if you want to make a little practice for 5 days and watch your flower open, it's a pretty cool thing to do. This is an example of an artist that did that, the lily. And she has all of her entries dated and she's making observations about how things are changing. And then I also put this on for reference during your homework. You want to label your flower. And this is John Muir Laws's stuff. As he's been mentioned a couple times, he's definitely a leader in this field and has lots worth checking out on his Instagram and his website. I also put in an article that he wrote for This Year magazine. Check that out. And credits. So these two books, the images weren't credited. They came from these two books. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned them here. If you want to do more of this, I would really recommend getting Keeping a Nature Journal, Discover a Whole New Way of Seeing the World Around You. That one's a great book for adults. The How to Teach Nature Journaling is more for educators. So if you're a teacher or if you have children or grandchildren and you want to help them learn this practice, it's a really good book for that. There's also a Facebook group called the Nature Journal Club that seems pretty active and is worth checking out if you want to hop in on a virtual community and share your work. It's one place to do it. And I'll be seeing you guys hopefully on July 14th from 12:30 to 3. Jennifer, are we confirmed on Arroyo Hondo or are we still deciding?
Nope, we'll be doing it at Arroyo Hondo. We'll meet there. And I'll be sending an email out with directions and the info you'll need.
Okay. Wow, we did it. I'm gonna stop.
Yay, I'm so
screen.
excited.
Okay.
I did it.
Cool. So anybody, if you have to leave, go ahead and leave
Kelly,
because I want to be conscious of everybody's time.
there's a question in the chat. Alexis asks, what do you do when you don't know the name of your specimen? Do you have a favorite plant ID app that you use?
You know, I have so many nerdy friends that I send them the picture and ask them what it is, or I have them look at my journal entry later. But yeah, there's so many great apps. I haven't really used any of them. Can anyone in the group recommend one that they've had a lot of success with?
I think iNaturalist or whatever the iNaturalist version of iBotanist or something, that one's supposed to be good. Don't use Plant Snap. That was ridiculously bad. Somebody said, picture this. I was on a hike this morning and they said they just put it in picture this. So there's a lot of
Yeah, I've heard picture this is really good.
Yeah.
I haven't used it too much.
Thank you.
Also, there's a new Central Coast nature journaling, like fledgling group that grew out of Santa Barbara Botanic Garden. They were trying to do classes and then COVID got in the way. And a couple of local people have stepped up and they've got a really good thing. So they're affiliated with a bigger nature journal Facebook thing, but they're not so accomplished, so it's not so intimidating. But there's a local Central Coast Nature Journal or Facebook page, and they do
Okay,
activities online.
so good to hear about. And I really like the idea of starting a local group and meeting up once a month and journaling together. So I don't know, maybe that's something that some of you are interested in as well. And I'm really interested in building community around nature journaling. So
Here in Cobb, I think it's next week or the week after, they're having a class at the Arts Centre here.
at the Art Center
In
Santa Barbara.
Carpinteria.
the Carpinteria
It's up on their website.
on nature journaling.
Yes.
Oh, great.
And they're going to take you out down for a walk and down to the beach. And so it's a few hours.
Nice.
That's great. Yeah, I've shown at a couple of their shows there, and they're such a great organization.
I think it's
Yeah, I
like
would love to check
$70.
Okay.
It's not free.
Are there any questions? Any other questions? How was that? Any feedback for me?
Oh, I think you did a great job of kind of putting us through like the first one, the second one, and then the third one. And I mean, I've not done this before, so it was so not intimidating. And it actually looks like a leaf.
Woohoo!
Very
Cool.
good. Oh, wow.
More
I have
drawings.
I have a peach tree outside, so I
Nice
know
cat.
that it's a peach leaf.
Okay.
Wow.
Aliens is a peach leaf.
You guys are really good.
What else? Feeling brave?
Let's get mine. I don't think
Let's
it's gonna
see.
work. I have to turn this
I
off.
see. I think I see half of Teresa's.
Yeah, I have to take off the background.
Oh, it starts
Some of
cutting.
you, if some of you wouldn't mind
Ooh.
snapping some photos and maybe emailing them to Jennifer,
A list.
using them to show what we did today on social media, I would love that.
Cool.
Yeah.
What we were doing in my nature journal class is everybody just held their thing up and take a screenshot.
Oh,
That could be shared.
We could do that. You guys, if everybody would hold up their drawing.
Or I can't. Let's see. But I could hold up. I'll hold this up. It's from another day.
have to move it over, Elsa.
Hold on.
We can't see it. There you go.
Okay, hold on. Let me close down the chat and the other
And
windows I have.
Kelly, we can't see yours.
I don't know who has
Too
to
late.
here, but
There we go.
Put it
Thanks,
closer
guys.
to the screen. Yeah.
Cool.
And you know, and also if you feel like snapping a photo with your phone or something and want to email it to me, that would be great also.
Great. Yeah. And work on the flower if you want to do more.
I actually took a journal with me on a trip. My son was driving and I did little maps, and every place we stopped, I did notes. I was so proud of myself that I actually did it on the road in the car, and now I have a record of days of my trip. So it's a really neat thing to get into.
It's really fun to look back on and have memories. I'm going to share my screen again real quick because I just realized that I had my contact info on the last slide. So I'm going to put that up just for a minute so that people can see it if they need it. Let's see. So there's my website. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah. Okay. And that's my Instagram too, kellyancampbell.art. If you want to follow me, feel free to reach out. Love to keep in touch. I'm going to be PDFing my presentation and giving it to Jen so she can send it out. All right. Everybody have a chance to get that down? Yeah, thank you. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining me today. And for your
Thank you.
patience.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Nice to meet you
Bye.
all.
Bye-bye.
Good luck. Happy journaling.
Hope to
Thank
see you in
so
July
much.
for part 2, you guys.
Good to see you, Seema.